And joining us today are Lewis Hamilton of Mercedes, Felipe Massa from Williams, Daniel Ricciardo of Red Bull Racing, Nico Rosberg of Mercedes, Max Verstappen from Red Bull Racing, and Sebastian Vettel from Ferrari. Let's start, though, with Felipe, your last Brazilian Grand Prix as a Formula One driver. What does this weekend, this occasion, mean to you?
Well, I think it will be a very special weekend for me, for my last home race, place where I grew up, place that I remember I was in the grandstand watching and supporting Ayrton Senna, Nelson Piquet, always dreaming to be here, and then I managed to get here and win 2 races here in Interlagos, getting quite a lot of times in the podium, so it's definitely a fantastic place for me. I will miss definitely this race. When I see these guys racing next year, I will definitely miss to be here. But I'm so happy and proud for everything. You know, I passed through these 15 years in Formula One. You know, every people that I met, friends, drivers, the competition I had with these guys, you know, for quite a long time. So yeah, I will miss definitely this place, some nice races around the world, but also some friends, and yeah, it will be a very special moment for me.
As you say, so many great memories from your own career here, especially the pole positions, the podiums, and those 2 very special wins with Ferrari. What stands out, though, for you, and what were these guys like to race against?
I mean, it's difficult. I mean, we are talking about the best drivers in the world, you know. You know, everybody that get here get because of the talent. They are here because of the talent. So the competition is really high. But I think I definitely learned a lot. I think it was an amazing life experience, you know, that I had. And yeah, so it's definitely not easy to be a Formula One driver, I would say. But I had a fantastic time, and so happy to achieve what I managed to achieve and to get here after very long. And yeah, I will always remember them as tough drivers in the track. And I would say maybe the relationship, maybe in the last years, gets a little bit better outside of the track, which it will be even better when all of us stop, I would say. So yeah, just expect the best for them and support them for the future.
Okay, thank you, Lewis. Of course, that 2008 memory is still very strong. You won the World Championship, your first of 3 World Championships that day, but Felipe obviously showed great dignity on the podium, having won the race. What was he like as an adversary?
Well, it's kind of... it's been great driving alongside Felipe and against him. I mean, we've had some great times. Even before I got to Formula 1 and I was in GP2, we had already become friends back then, and had some good experiences. But yeah, to have those great, strong battles we had, even beyond 2008, for me was a privilege, and you know, something that I always cherish. And at some stage, we'll be a bunch of oldies, replacing the older drivers that are hanging around today, and we'll be coming along, talking, you know, looking onto the other youngsters. But yeah, it's definitely going to be. I think Formula 1's going to miss him, that's for sure.
Okay, and the other drivers, your thoughts on Felipe's his race Formula 1 career, and what kind of atmosphere do we expect at this final Brazilian Grand Prix this weekend, Nico?
Well, it would be great. I'm sure the Brazilians are going to go crazy to support Felipe in this last race here, and yeah, he's given a lot to F1, so it's going to be a loss for the sport, for us, for sure. And that's it.
Max?
Yeah, of course. I mean, the career he's had, I think many want to achieve. You know, that many years in Formula 1 as well, and to be able to fight for World Championships. So yeah, I think it will be definitely a very special moment for him. And I think in general, you know, the Brazilian Grand Prix is always very, very special and a great track and great atmosphere to be at.
Seb, you've won here a few times. You've had a few good battles against Felipe. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think, well, we don't need to talk about his talent. I think there's no doubt that he's one of the most talented drivers on the grid. But apart from that, he's a great person. You know, he's the kind of guy you look at and you smile because he's just smiling from the inside. So I think that will be missed a lot. And I hope he still comes around a couple of times and has a look and a laugh. So in that regard, wish him all the best. But for this weekend, I think it will be great to see, hopefully, a lot of Brazilian flags and a lot of support for him because, as everyone said, he has had a great career. So, yeah, it's his weekend.
And Daniel, final thought.
Yeah, I think I'm looking forward to the drivers' parade on Sunday. It's always very interesting. For as long as I've been doing it, at least, you know, anyone who's Felipe's teammate gets an absolute pounding on the drivers' parade. But I think we're all going to get. He's going to get some extra love this weekend, and we'll probably get yelled some funny Brazilian names. But it's all in good humour. The atmosphere is awesome. So, yeah, I think we're going to have a pretty amazing crowd this weekend.
Okay, thanks for that. Back to Lewis and Nico then. 2 races to go. Nico, a win on Sunday and you're the world champion. Lewis, obviously a great motivation for you to win a Brazilian Grand Prix. You haven't won before. How are you both feeling going into this? Is the tension rising? Nico, first.
Yeah, feeling great, of course, because it's awesome to be fighting for the World Championship with 2 races to go. And yeah, so excited about the weekend, looking forward to it, and of course going to try and go for the win.
And Lewis?
Yeah, well, I've had lots of great, mixed experiences here, so it's a real challenge to come here and try and win for the first time. Something that, you know, Nico and obviously Felipe has experienced in the past. So that's my goal, and nothing really to lose.
And to the drivers on the back row, with the nature of this track and also the weather forecast that we have at the moment for this weekend, what's the scope for racing against these 2 guys at the front this weekend? Daniel?
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be potentially wet on the weekend, which is going to make it interesting. You know, so there's obviously a little bit less pressure on everyone else, but I'm envious of their position. So, you know, I'd like to have that little bit of pressure. But anyway, it's sure, if there's an opportunity, we still go for it. You know, we race, and that's how it's going to be. I think if it's wet, it's going to make it interesting. It's going to be fun, and yeah, see how it plans out on Sunday. But hopefully we get a good race Sunday.
Seb?
Well, I think this place, for some reason, has always been special, has delivered special races. I don't know what it is. I think the circuit is good fun, nice to drive, but I think it's the atmosphere, the weather, all that coming together that has created crazy races in the past. So you mentioned the one in 2008. I think the last race in 2012 was pretty amazing as well. So yeah, I'm sure we'll have a great race on Sunday. Obviously for all of us not fighting for the championship, we are fighting for the victory here. But yeah, we'll see with the conditions and so on. As I said, there's always room to do something.
Max, potentially a winnable race for you?
Well, you always try, but I haven't really experienced a lot of mixed conditions yet in Brazil. Of course, I've seen a lot on the TV, but yeah, it will be interesting like always. I mean, I really enjoyed last year, and hopefully with some rain coming in, that would be even more interesting. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the weekend.
Okay, thank you very much. So for this part of it, let's throw it open to questions from the floor. Please give us your name and publication when asking a question. And please don't ask about the Mexican Grand Prix at this point. We'll come on to that in a moment as a separate topic. Who has the first question for us, please? Give us your name and publication, please. Put your hand up again, please.
Huh? He'll get a fine.
Pedro Lopes, Globesport.com. Richardo, how it was your meat feast yesterday?
Our meat feast yesterday was very good. was very good. Fortunately, it's no longer with me. Otherwise, I would still be sweating. But yes. How do you say? Muito bom? Muito bom. Very good.
Very good. Next one, please.
Hi, Kevin Easton. Kevin Easton from the Times. Seb, are you there? Yes, you are. Can you tell me? Do you believe? I'm over here. I'm very small. Perfectly formed, actually, as it turns out. Seb, you had a pretty fruitless year with Ferrari, and you started with a bit of a dream, didn't you? Do you believe you'll ever win a world championship with Ferrari?
Yes.
Why?
Because generally I think I'm positive looking forward, and obviously it was a big step when I decided to change at the time when I did, and it was clear that it will take some time. Obviously we had a great season last year. We got closer and closer to Mercedes, so the hopes and expectations for this year were high. I think it's normal when you finish second in the constructors, you aim to finish first. Now we haven't achieved what we set out to achieve, but nevertheless, our main target is to win the championship, fight for the championship, and I think there's a lot of change that I see, a lot of change that is going on inside the team, which should make us, or will make us stronger. I'm pretty confident about that. So I guess it's a question of time.
Okay, any more questions from the floor? Yes, front row.
Take a selfie, or maybe you take it later.
Globesport.com. To Nico and then to Luis. You won the last two races here, starting from the pole position. And Luis also recognized that you were very strong in that both weekends. And can you explain it, if you find something special, some special way to win here? And Luis, why you said he's so fast and you could not reach him in the last two Brazilian Grand Prix?
Okay.
I love the track. It's a great track. Feels good, and I've always gone well here. So that's why I'm looking forward to the weekend also. And great memories, of course, from those two wins. It was very special. But at the same time, this year we all start from zero. So those past wins are not going to help me get the win this weekend. We all start from the same place, and just need to do a good job this weekend, and that's it.
Lewis.
I don't really know. I've not won here, so I don't really have an answer for you. I try every year, and I'll try harder this year.
Dan Knudsen, Auto Action and Speed Sport. Felipe, it's going to be a lot of emotions leading up to the red lights going out. How difficult will it be to switch off when those lights go out?
I think it's always the same. I think when you are in the car, you don't think about other things. You just think about what you want to do in the best way as you can. So I would say maybe the whole race I will be concentrate in my job, trying to get the best race possible, the best result as I can. For me, for my team, especially in this moment that it's quite important, this fight with Force India for Williams Martini. And but I think maybe when I finish the race after the checkered flag, I think it will be very special. It will be really amazing feeling to just doing the last lap in Interlagos of my career in Formula One here, So, yeah, I think during the race it's just so much concentrate in everything you need to do, but maybe after will be, quite different.
Okay, well, that concludes the first part of this Thursday Drivers' Press Conference. And now I'll hand the floor to FIA F1 Head of Communications, Matteo Bonciani, to say a few words. Matteo.
Okay. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm sorry for the logistic. As you see, I mean, it's a little bit different here, but I hope that in the next day we will be a little bit more, it will be more easy for us to find it. As you know, I mean, we have a departure from our usual press conference due to the big interest, the general interest on the incidents of the outcome of the Mexican Grand Prix. That's the reason why I thought it was beneficial for everybody to have this different press conference, having Charlie Whiting and the driver. So, James, we'll ask afterwards, we will have questions from the floor. As I said, as I tried to write, we try to stay on this topic. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matteo. Charlie, obviously there are several key areas of interest. Firstly, can we talk about the incident with Lewis missing turn 2 at the start and the one later with Max at the same spot and the differences between them?
Yeah, sure. I think the principal difference between the two was simply that in Lewis's case it was felt that he didn't gain any lasting advantage, and in Max's case he did. I think Richard could show you a couple of videos here just to refresh everyone's memory. Perhaps that would be a help. So the first, I think you're all pretty familiar with it, but you can see that Lewis makes a small mistake and Sebastian. If Max had done the same thing on the straight between turn 3 and 4, he would certainly have lost the place. So I think that's why the stewards felt that deserved a penalty, because the driver had gained a lasting advantage. That's the fundamental difference between the two. I don't know if you can show that one as well, Richard. So that was the reason. That was the fundamental difference between the two incidents in the eyes of the stewards.
Okay, let's bring the drivers in on this. Max, you had a comment there. What's your thought of what you've seen here and what Charlie just said?
Yeah, well, of course I don't agree with the decision, but it doesn't really make a lot of difference, does it? I mean, I've got a penalty. I think if you give penalties, give it to both, or you don't give any penalties. But I think what we need to maybe change for the future is that once you go off, it should be a penalty on its own, instead of the stewards should interfere into that and decide a penalty. So I think we need to come up with a solution that once you go off, that should be the penalty on its own.
And Lewis, your thoughts on what we've just seen and what Charlie just said?
I mean, I relatively agree with Charlie's explanation. I don't really have a particular opinion about it. I think ultimately, the stewards have a very, very difficult job, because every single scenario is different. As he was mentioning that, for example, the safety car came out immediately after my incident, for example. So every scenario is a little bit different, so it's not that easy to apply the same rule to every single thing. But I also agree with Max that we should work with Charlie to, as we have been, I think, through the year, to try and make it easier for them to make decisions and for it to be more clear.
Okay, moving on to another topic of great interest. The moving under braking obviously has been widely discussed throughout the season. You issued a clarification in the Austin weekend. Can you tell us about Sebastian's defence from Daniel in the last race in light of that?
I think it might be helpful just to go back a little bit to Hungary, where there were two incidents involving Kimi and Max. This got thoroughly discussed during the drivers' meeting in Germany, and the consensus of opinion was that moving under braking was something that should not be done. We agreed with this, and then we had this incident with Max and Lewis in Japan, where the first thing that Lewis said on the radio was he moved when we were braking. So we looked at it after the race. The stewards, as you know, felt that there wasn't a case to answer there, which gave rise, of course, to a lengthy discussion in the drivers' meeting in Austin. And I then issued what was a clarification of existing regulations to say exactly what we felt should be reported to the stewards. And with that as the backdrop, so to speak, Mexico was really the first race where that rule was applied. And there are three sort of fundamental points there within the rules. Firstly, if a driver has to take evasive action, if a driver makes an abnormal change of direction in the braking zone, and if it could be deemed to be potentially dangerous to another driver. If those three conditions are satisfied, then the stewards felt that that was a dangerous manoeuvre and should be penalised. So that's how the stewards looked at it, and they felt that Sebastian had moved under braking. That was very clear from the data, and also pretty clear from the video, of course. It was potentially dangerous, and it was an abnormal change of direction which could have led to an accident. So I think if we just look carefully at some footage here, you'll probably... There's one view I doubt anyone has actually seen, but should we show the first two, Richard? Okay, we'll do this one. Yeah, do this. This is from the track camera. And I think you can see very clearly that both cars are on the left of the track. Sebastian moves to the right, and then in the braking zone moves to his left, and then you can see quite clearly that Daniel had to take evasive action. And then I think if you can also show the onboard, if you would, Richard, and I think you can see very clearly that had Daniel's right front hit Sebastian's left rear, it would have been a significantly different scenario, and that's, I think, what the stewards really looked at, was it was a potentially dangerous situation. Again, if we can go forward. And I mean, it's close, and I think that's what the stewards looked at. And as I say, those three conditions were satisfied as far as the stewards were concerned, and that's what they felt they should act upon.
Okay, bring the drivers in on this. Daniel first.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think it's obviously been explained, and we were in the stewards after the race, and I think, you know, from an outside point of view for fans and that, and for drivers, you know, you don't want sort of to wait, I guess, so long after a race to then have an outcome, but that was that. So I felt like, yeah, the move was, as Charlie explained, you know, it's just when you're in that braking zone, once you're committed, and especially when you're overtaking, you know, we've discussed as drivers that you're putting the car on the limit because you're trying to outbrake someone, so you're already on the edge, and then any sort of move or something, then you're not really in control, I guess. So hence why I lock up the brake, and then it all turns into a bit of a mess. It's the only real part where we're not in... It's not that we're not in control, but we can't really get out of much once we're on the brakes. You know, it's when you're down the straight, if someone defends, if they move one way, you can obviously move the other or whatever. But then once you've committed to the braking, then it's hard to pull out, let's say, of that move. So, yeah, obviously I felt that was the right decision. As I said, from an outside point of view, from I guess fans and that, it's probably a bit hard to understand and digest it all after the race. But yeah, obviously we'll try and keep it. I wouldn't say clean. I mean, I like the hard racing, but we'll just try and avoid these moving under braking things in the future, and then these things won't need to be addressed.
And Seth, your thoughts?
Well, obviously, I don't agree with the decision that was made. I think I moved over once to defend my position. After that, yeah, I think gave Daniel enough room on the inside, kept the car straight for more than the majority of the braking. So I think the reason why, my point of view, Daniel locked up so bad is because there was no grip on the inside, and it's something that, yeah, I think we all knew. I mean, there were people locking up on other corners when they were off line, so I think it actually looks a bit worse than it was. I don't think it was actually dangerous for Daniel at that point, but okay, had to deal with the decision.
Okay, now let's throw it open to the floor. Please give us your name and your publication, remember, when asking a question, and let's keep this part of the conference, please, the questions to on this topic, exactly, to the Mexican Grand Prix topic.
Liverico, Globesport.com. Charlie, we understood perfectly, but the main question we see is you have different stewards in each race. And we are not sure all of them have the same criteria to interpret it. Even why it's also interpretation question, what we have been seeing. Don't you think it is a problem? We think that in one race they follow one criteria, then another race, another criteria. And also the drivers, I believe, they complain about that.
Well, needless to say, I disagree. As Lewis pointed out, every incident is different. Some can look at first sight to be very similar to to another incident from a previous race, but when you examine them more carefully, and you must remember also that the stewards have an enormous amount of images available to them, data, and all manner of things available to them which you don't see. So I think it's easy to say that decisions are made inconsistently, but more often than not, in my opinion, when you look into it in detail, you find that, in fact, incident A wasn't the same as incident B. They have small differences, and that's where I think further explanation is sometimes needed.
Okay, next one, please.
Alan Baldwin, Reuters. Charlie, one of the things you haven't addressed so far is the issue of language being used over the radio, and specifically what Seb said about you. Could you give us your take on that and your views on driver language and what was said about you?
I'll give you my views on what was said about me, but I think bad language, it's not the first time bad language has been used, of course, and the fact that it was directed at me was unfortunate, and I think there were a number of mitigating circumstances that led up to Sebastian's obvious frustration, but the fact that he sought me out very shortly after the race to apologise, for me, that was enough, and I'm prepared just to forget it and move on. I think that's really what we should do. Things happen in the heat of the moment. I think you've seen what the FIA's position on this is, and I personally feel that that's enough.
Sebastian, you have the right to reply if you wish.
Well, I think it's all been said, but I have no problem saying again. So I'm sorry for what I said. Obviously, when you were racing, you're fighting, and I think you can understand why I wasn't so happy at that point. But for sure, I regret what I said, and certainly didn't mean it. But it was very clear for me to look for Charlie right after. I wrote a letter as well. So, I'm happy that Charlie accepted the apology and happy to, as he said, move on.
Okay, next one.
As a follow-up, one of the things the FIA said was the impact that swearing might have on the younger generation. So perhaps Max could also comment on that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think, when you're in the heat of the moment and you have a radio available, you can say bad things. But it's the same if, let's say, you give a microphone to a football player. I mean, imagine how many words are coming out there during a game. So, or another sport, it doesn't even need to be football, rugby, whatever. So I think it's just, with the radio around you, it's pretty dangerous. So I think maybe you shouldn't broadcast it. That's another solution. Because, we are driving on the limit and we are in some, good fights. And then, the adrenaline is going really high. So I think maybe for the future, if it's bad for the younger generation, just don't broadcast it.
Lewis, you're nodding. You agree? You agree with Max's point? You're nodding.
I think someone was nodding to me in the crowd.
Okay. Moving on then. Next one.
Ralf Bach, Autobild Motorsport. A question to Charlie. Charlie, what do you think, how often would have been a guy like Donald Trump because of the language after a race to the stewards? I asked because he's now the President of the United States. And do you think it's the right way to show the youth, okay, maybe it's not a language you have to say, but it's the language everybody on the world, in the universities and everywhere is speaking?
To be honest, I'm not sure what Donald Trump's got to do with this. But I think I've already answered what I feel about the language that was used there, and I think the question of whether or not it should be broadcast is something that needs to be discussed, really. But I think, well, I really don't understand exactly what you're asking, if I'm honest. But I think my answer to the previous question said what I feel about the actual incident that occurred in Mexico.
Andrea Cremonese, Gazzetta dello Sport. A question for Sebastian. Don't you think that in the last two Grand Prix you needed to rebuild a little bit your, I can say, your image, your reputation after, because the accident happened during the race was followed by other accident, I mean bad languages with other drivers. And the second question is if when you lose temper during the race, if you don't lose also the committed to attack the Verstappen. In that case, if you penalize yourself, losing control of yourself during the race.
Not sure I understood everything. First, what happened in Austin then? Because you said the last two races, accidents.
No, the last few days in Mexico, no? You have some question also with Alonso, with...
Oh, well, can you repeat the question? I'm not sure I got it.
I think the basic gist of the question is about losing your cool over that weekend.
Your reputation in the last two races. If you want to rebuild your reputation,
I think we had actually two very strong races. I think we started 7th in Mexico, and we were fighting for the podium at the end, which I think is a great achievement. We had a great race, so there's a lot of positives. Obviously, I think similar to all other drivers, when you're fighting, for sure the adrenaline goes up, you're excited, and I was not happy with sitting in 4th, which is still a good result. Coming from 7th, I wanted to attack for the podium because the opportunity was there. So I think I tried everything I could. Obviously circumstances weren't helping, but from my point of view, I think I did everything I could at the time. So I think we've seen many times that overtaking is not not so easy. I think I put Max under pressure, and then I think we all know what happened. But in the end, I think it was actually two good races. If anything to criticize, I think is the performance on Saturday, which wasn't matching the performance that we could show on the Sundays.
Okay. Any more on the question of Mexico?
Andrew Benson, BBC Sport. Charlie, initially, a lot of the problems that arise from drivers going off track come from the fact that there's no penalty for going off track. You can rejoin and keep your position. Are you looking at changing tracks to make that not the case? And would drivers like to see that happen? Any of you?
Yes, I think we've done this, in fact, in a number of circuits where you have a situation similar to the one that occurred in Mexico. Second chicane in Monza, last chicane in Montreal, Sochi first corner, or turn 2 in fact. So we've developed systems, if you like, that drivers have to take a certain route back onto the track and thereby are automatically slower. This wasn't a problem last year in Mexico because I think simply because the grass was all new and it was wetter and it was more difficult to drive across. This year, quite clearly, it was quite easy to drive across, and hence we had a problem. But it's very easy, I think, to rectify that and do a similar sort of arrangement to come back onto the track, so which will mean that drivers will come back on slower, and hence there will be no discussion whether or not they gain an advantage. I think that's what Max was saying earlier.
Just throw that to the drivers then for a comment. Maybe Nico, have you got a view on that?
No, yeah, for sure. I think it would be good if somehow we can automatically get some sort of slowing down system or in all runoff areas. So that will solve the issue definitely.
Anybody else? Anything else to add before we move on to the next question? No? Okay. Next one.
A question to Charlie. The incident in turn 1, was the safety car decisive for not giving Lewis a penalty? Because you said not gaining a lasting advantage, and from what we see from the video, he had a 1 car length advantage on the braking, and at the braking at turn 4, even though he lifted, So about 4 or 5 car length advantage. So had not happened the safety car, would it be all right for the race to continue? And the other drivers who didn't comment what they think about the scene.
If we were going to ask Lewis to back right off to ensure that he maintained the same distance he had when he went into the corner, but we could see from the data that he had already backed off significantly, and then the VSC was deployed, followed by the safety car, so there was no need to take any further action. But had that not happened, yes, we would have done that, yes.
Hi. A lot of
Can you give us your name and publication?
Sorry. Gabriel Leon from Motorsport.com. Question to Lewis and Nico. Of course, Max Verstappen is being a great topic. I mean, I think we're discussing a lot of things because of his driving style. I want to know, what do you think about his driving style, and if you have any fear that he could interfere in the outcome of the championship? Thank you.
Nico, why don't you start?
Fear, no, definitely not. And driving style, I mean, I think it's just important that we keep on discussing, because I think there's still room for progress in terms of getting continuity, you know, in the decisions, and that's it. So it's something we need to keep going on with, keep discussing to see if we can make improvements there, and that's it. It's not depending on one specific driver or not. So that would be good to do that.
Lewis?
Well, firstly, I think you should move your phone from down there because it's kind of dangerous. Your phone, if you want to have kids and stuff. Yes, it's not healthy to have it there, just so you know. Radiation, yeah, radiation. I'm helping you, seriously.
Kids.
Yeah. But, yeah, I mean, I can only really comment on Max driving, and as I have through the year. I mean, he's obviously a very talented kid and has come in, and I call him a kid because he's a kid to me. He's still below 20, so you know he's still got a lot to learn. But he's obviously done a great job up until now, and he's going to continue to grow and be a force to be reckoned with in Formula 1.
Matt?
I generally don't have that, no.
Max, give you the right to reply on this, if you want.
I'm still negotiating with them who's going to pay me the most. Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see on Sunday.
Okay, moving on. Next, on the topic of Mexico, yes.
Fred Ferrer, l'équipe. Question to all drivers about Lewis and Nico. Will you be more careful during the 2 last races when you attack Nico or Lewis because they are playing the World Championship?
Dan?
Honestly, no. Because I think that every race is, you know, like it's the start of the season in Melbourne. You race hard, and now it's the end of the season. So I think the championship will work out how it should work out. I don't think we should, if you know, like assist in the outcome, if that makes sense. So just because they are fighting doesn't mean we shouldn't still try and make an overtake if there's a door open. I mean, I'll always race, I think, with respect, but sure, I'll race hard. And if there's an opportunity, I mean, normally if we are fighting with them, it means we've got a chance to probably win a race. So, I mean, if there's an opportunity to win, for sure, well, at least I'll go for it. But I don't know, I just feel that the championship will end as it probably should. You know, the winner will be the winner, and we shouldn't affect it by staying out of the fight, if you know what I mean.
And Seb, of course, you've seen this from both sides, haven't you? Having been in this position yourself on a couple of occasions. Your thoughts on this question?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, you know, it's clear the fact that you race to see the checkered flag, so you never try to do something that doesn't allow you to see checkered flag. Equally, it applies when racing, you know, against people that are racing for the championship, but for sure, I think it's something you have to have in mind because, you know, credit to them, they did the best job over the season for whatever reason to put them in that position, and I think for the others is to respect the fact.
Max?
I know, for sure. I mean, imagine you tell your team, like, no, I'm going to stay out of the fight, you know, I'm just going to cruise behind them. I mean, they wouldn't be happy as well. So you always treat it with respect. I mean, you never try to hit each other, but that's already the whole season when you try to pull a move on them or when you're in that position. So, no, there is the same approach.
Okay. Felipe, anything to add?
Well, I would love to be fighting with them, to be honest, on the race. So if I can be fighting with them, I think they need to be careful with me because I will try everything I can.
And Nico and Lewis, finally on this point, is what you've just heard from the other drivers, that's presumably what you expect on Sunday and again in Abu Dhabi, yeah?
Of course, you're not going to take it easy just because one guy is fighting for the championship. You know, he's a competitor like everybody else, and that's completely normal for all of us drivers to approach it in that way.
Okay, any more?
My name is Bruno Vicari. I'm from Bandeirantes Radio. I want to ask Charlie, what's your opinion about this new Interlagos? Are you satisfied with the structure here?
Absolutely. I mean, it's given the teams more space, and I think it's a lot better for all. I think the working conditions are greatly improved, and I think it's improved the whole place massively.
Okay, thank you. We could keep our questions to the Mexico thing. That's specifically what we're on here.
Livio Rico, Globosport.com. Charlie, you started in Formula 1 in the 70s as mechanic, then track engineer, and we are discussing here until now drivers' behavior. Do you think all these rules concerning drivers' behavior is a step forward in motorsport or not? And what are the comments of the drivers about this subject?
Unfortunately, I think the whole sport has become more complex, and there are continual requests to make things clearer. And the clearer things need to become, the longer the rules, and the more detailed the rules become. For example, all the rules on driving could be summed up in one sentence: drivers must drive safely, or something that simple, you know. But when you have a simple rule like that, you're continually asked, exactly what does that mean? Can we do this? Can we do that? And then the rule becomes longer and longer and longer. There's always the request for more detail and more precision. And it's not just in driving, it's throughout the whole rules, sporting and technical. They naturally become more complex because everyone's trying that much harder to get everything out of every situation. So I personally don't see any likelihood of the rules becoming simpler, because we do have a complex sport. That's really how it is, and that's how it's developed over the last 20 or so years, I would say.
To the drivers, this is actually a really important point in terms of what Charlie just said.
Yep. Which part did I touch on? Sorry.
About the fact that you're here to go hard racing. Where's the line
sure,
between hard racing and something that needs clarification and more notes and pieces of paper?
I mean, obviously I was in a position last weekend where I was, let's say, in a way, protesting a move. But, you know, on the flip side of that, I think that was a specific move, as we discussed on the braking. But apart from that, I think that we should be allowed to, and I think they've eased the rules the last couple of years or so. We did make a conscious effort to give us a bit more freedom to race, and I think it's been more fun and better since then. So there's always going to be incidents where you'll feel this or that, but I definitely feel that we should be allowed to, still put it all on the line. I think that makes the sport exciting. It lets out emotions, as we've heard, and it gives us our own, I guess, personality as well, and fans can attract to a driver on the way he races or the way he responds. So, we should definitely, I mean, all of us love racing. I've said it, you know, you come here to win, but if you can't win, you don't want to drive around Sunday afternoon by yourself. You want to have a fight and have a battle. So, we can always make improvements here or there, but you don't want the rules to become that tight that we're afraid to do anything. But I think we're okay with it.
And Lewis, on that topic, how important is it for you to be hard racing, but also to be seen to be hard racing?
I mean, I agree with what Daniel said. I mean, we're here to race hard, but of course, we all have different opinions about different rules that are set and how we go about them, obviously, because we've got two different opinions for every one scenario. And that's why we need people like Charlie in the middle who really helps with no bias, make sure that the right decision's made. And I think ultimately they allow us to race, but of course we can't be led to go down the wrong path of the incorrect way.
Any more comments on this? No, Max?
Well, I
I mean, yeah, as long you don't crash or you make the other driver lose a lot of positions, I think you can race pretty hard.
Okay, is that it?
Ralph Woodward, l'équipe. Charlie, could you explain or clarify regarding the penalties why Seb had a 10-second penalty and Max a 5-second penalty in Mexico?
I think in every set of circumstances where a penalty is applied, the stewards have a range of penalties they can choose from, a 5-second, 10-second drive-through or a 10-second stop and go. So it's just simply a matter of the stewards felt that it was more serious, hence 10 seconds was necessary.
Thank you.
This is Felipe's last one, and
okay.
The first one Charlie's been in too. So, so you found some.
You take it.
You have to get us all in somehow.
So very transparent, as you can see. That was the last question we had. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Good luck in this weekend's Brazilian Grand Prix. A full transcript at FIA.